Hey losers, I'm Coral. Welcome back to my channel. I'm here today with the books that I've read in the first half, of March. It's a little bit before the first half, but listen, I'm filming. It's a couple days before I would normally film this, so it's maybe not quite the middle of the month, but here it is anyways. Here you go. I have 8 books. One, I did DNF, so I finished 7 books in total. I read 2,225 pages, which is about 185 pages per day. 6 of these were horror, 1 was fantasy, and 1 was historical fiction. The oldest book I read came out in 1998, then we jumped to 2019. Big jump there. 4 of these came out in 2023 and 2 were new releases, so they came out in 2024. As far as series go, I started 1 series this month and I read 4 books for the Read What You Own challenge in this stack of books here, so that puts me at 54% complete. All right, how should we do this? Should we go from I don't know. Let's talk about the book. Well, actually, what I need to do is talk about the 2 books that I do not have copies of. I listened to 2 audiobooks that I got from my library. The first one here is This Wretched Valley by Jenny Kiefer. This is a 2024 release, and this was on my most anticipated for the year. Let me tell you. I thought this was okay. Okay, and let me just say also that I think I was the minority here. I think a lot of people really loved it, so let me just say that. And I will also say that I don't have any big beef with it. This is like a survival story where there is some rock climbing involved, which is like, those check 2 of my boxes right away. Rock climbing, like mountaineering stuff, and survival horror. I love that shit. Also, the cover is so cool. It's purple, which it's really stupid because it's like I'm really trying to get away from the thing where it's like if I've read a book, I want to buy it. But it's purple, which is like, how many purple horror books are there out there, you know? But I need to stop that. It is really a great design. But this is about a group of like college-age students. One of them is, oh God, I can't remember exactly what he's doing, but he's kind of trying to, for some reason, find like this climbing path no one's taken before. So he's working in tandem with someone he knows who is an actual rock climber, because he himself is not. But he's like found this place, mapped it out. They hike there, and then his friend who is the climber is going to climb it. So they plan to stay for a little while. And it's like a group of 4 people and a dog. They find the area, but the people in the area are like, why would you want to go out there? There's been some disappearances in the area. You know, the locals are like, well, nobody comes back from there, kind of a thing. But for some reason, the locals like don't really push it. They're like, nobody comes back from there. No one like blatantly is like, I think this is a bad idea. Which like, I don't know. It's kind of weird to me. Anyway, so they do this, and very, very quickly, which I do appreciate the pace, I don't know, I wouldn't say the pacing of the whole story, but the way that this devolves quickly, really, I really did appreciate it, because it's like right away, we're like, oh, things are going wrong. And there's just something about this area that is wrong, like right away. I don't know how much more I should say than that, but they're not able to leave. So I don't know how much more I should say and go into as far as like what I didn't like, but I didn't really understand why the area was that way, you know what I mean? I feel like it too quickly hit its stride and then got kind of stuck in this. It kind of felt like the same old thing. It reminded me almost of Stolen Tongues, where it's like the author found its spooky thing and that was spooky, right? But then it just got overplayed. You know what I mean? So it's like it found its spooky thing and then it just kept doing that spooky thing. And then it stops being spooky because we're like, okay, we get it. And probably I'm just rambling now because this doesn't make sense to anybody else. But this did have like Blair Witch vibes, I thought. So I know that will appeal to people, the survival horror thing, like being lost in the woods. It seems like the woods want to keep them there. Like, why would that be, kind of a thing? But still I'm wondering, why would that be? And I guess it's kind of answered, but kind of, I don't know. Anyway, that's this Wretched Valley. Next, I listened to An Education in Malice by S.T. Gibson. This I was dying to get to after reading A Dowry of Blood, which I loved. And this I also really, really liked. I don't think I liked it quite as much, but it's like really, really fucking up there. This is a story that takes place in the 60s, and this follows a woman named Laura who's gone off to college, and she meets like this rival named Carmilla who is also taking this like special kind of like after hours class, this like poetry class, and it's like really selective. Laura like really shouldn't have been in it, except for that she's like she has like this budding talent in poetry, so that makes like Carmilla like extra kind of upset with her. So they're kind of like academic rivals, and so there's this tension between them. And you know, there's this extra layer added in when you kind of suspect that Carmilla might be jealous of any attention that professor gives anybody else. So there's just a lot of layers here in this story. There's also like these murders on campus and stuff like that, and Laura might have some sexual proclivities she's interested in exploring that she hasn't had a chance to yet because they're a little bit taboo, especially in this time and as a woman and stuff like that. And I really thought like the backdrop of all this being set in the 60s was really interesting, and I thought this was like a beautiful, gorgeous, sexy book, and one that I will definitely be buying a copy of for myself when I am when I'm buying books again. It was beautiful, beautiful, beautiful book. Oh, another book I loved, Sister Maiden Monster by Lucy A. Snyder. This kind of caught me off guard. It like kind of made its rounds and it came out, I think, when was this released? This was released last year in 2023. But this really caught me off guard, and I feel like looking at its reviews online, it's a little polarizing. It seems like a lot of people really didn't like it and a lot of people really liked it. So I fall into the camp where I was very surprised and really enjoyed this book. So I can't speak for everyone, of course, and I can't tell you how you'll feel about this, but this is like a story where it was really interesting the way this is set up, because we start out with one character and it's like as this apocalyptic event happens and progresses, we are like with one character and then another and then another. And so through this progression, we're like progressing through characters kind of. And so that was kind of interesting, if that makes any sense the way I'm explaining it. So it starts out as like this virus and becomes something much more. And I don't want to give too much away because I think that's part of like the beauty of reading this story. But boy, this is really gruesome. I think you need to check content warning for this. This had a part in it where I had to like take a breather because it was so gross. So it's a lot of body horror. Oh boy. And this also has some cosmic horror elements, which made me a little hesitant, because that's just a subgenre I really don't jive with at all. I can't think of a book with cosmic horror, even movies. It's like, I really don't like cosmic horror. It's not my thing. I don't get it. I don't get the appeal. And I don't know, like, is it my like lack of religious, I don't know what it is. It's like, I don't give a shit about the elder gods, but there are some cosmic elements, and it's not super heavy. It's like more in the end. But even then, like I found that it added to the story in a way that I enjoyed. So I don't know, that's kind of weird. Just to say, but I really, really loved this book. I thought it was so good. So fucking weird. I can't even explain the plot to you. I think you just have to kind of go in. I think maybe you should check content warnings if you're someone who thinks that you might need them. And then I think you go in and you just kind of sit down and let it take you for a ride. Okay, then a book I unfortunately did not love very much at all. This is Revenge by Yoko Ogawa. This came out in 1998, and this was translated by Stephen Snyder. So thank you, Stephen Snyder, for bringing this to the English speakers. This is a short story collection, and as you can see, this is relatively short, and there are 11 stories in this, so the stories are very short. And I have to say, I appreciate like the way that this is crafted, because the stories do, it's not like a theme, but it's like these stories do all have like a link together. Like each one has, and it's almost like it's a story told in reverse. It was interesting, you know, you read the first story and it mentions this thing, and then it's like, oh, it's in the, oh, this thing's in the second story. So it's kind of interesting to like think about when you're reading the story, like, oh, well, what's gonna link this one to that story? And so that was kind of interesting. But I do have to say the stories themselves, they were all right, but I don't think that this is a book. I don't think any of the stories in it are anything that I'm going to be thinking about ever. You know what I mean? Not like when I read The Memory Police and it's like, oh, that book, especially the ending, I think about it. I just think about it sometimes, you know. Her writing is really nice. I don't like short story collections, really, so I guess this shouldn't be surprising. Even some of my favorite authors, it's like I read their short story collections and I'm like, ugh. So it's just the way it is, you know? Next is What the River Knows by Isabel Ibanez. This came out in 2023. This was a Book of the Month pick. And I drew this from my TBR jar this month. So this is kind of a thick book. This is like a historical fiction with some lighter fantasy elements. And this is about a young woman. She's 19 in the story. And this takes place in the late 1800s. And her parents, oh boy. This is weird. The experience of reading this is kind of weird because there are parts that like are frustrating and make me want to roll my eyes, but also it's like there are parts of this that are very mysterious to me and like make me really want to read the sequel. So I feel very pulled in two different directions about this book. So maybe when the sequel comes out this year, I'm gonna have to get an audio copy or something. This is about a young woman named Inez, and she's really lived with her aunt most of her life because her parents seemingly don't give a shit about her and leave her for very, very long periods of time to go hang out in Egypt. She lives in Argentina, and they just leave her and they're like, oh, ha, we're having so much fun here without you. Like, what the fuck? And like, nobody is ever like, your parents are really fucking terrible. So she just like grows up like idolizing them still, even though they clearly don't give a shit about like their other lives, or their lives in Egypt are so much more important than her. And it's really sad, and like that's really not brought up in the book, which is so weird to me. It's brought up a tiny bit. Anyway, she's 19 at the time of this book, and she finds out her parents have died. Both of them. In the same accident. But she doesn't know exactly how. And so she travels to Egypt against her uncle's wishes because he's also in Egypt, and he's kind of like the executor of their will. So he's now her guardian and is in charge of all her money and stuff like that, the money that her parents left her. And he doesn't want her to come, but she sneakily does this anyways. And when she gets there. He's like, no, 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 you can't be here. But she kind of tricks her way into being there anyways, and she wants to know, like, what exactly the fuck happened. So there's this big mystery surrounding it. And it's like, was it even an accident? Things like that. Her uncle has this handsome assistant, of course. And I did enjoy the kind of flirtation around that. But yeah, like, her parents were so terrible. Why does she care that they're... I mean, I get it psychologically. It's like, especially if they've ignored you and you've idolized them their entire lives. Jesus Christ. But also, there's like this magic surrounding Egypt. And it seems like there are these magical items. And that's really not explained very much in this. Because it's like, it doesn't seem like there's new magic being made. It seems like there's only old magic, and the magic becomes rubbed off as people touch it physically, which is kind of strange. And that's really not explained very much, or like how the magic works or anything like that. So the magic system is very subpar. It's not fleshed out very well at all, which kind of bothered me, because I want to know how things work in my brain, and if something's not explained well enough, or if my brain can't, you know, make sense of it well enough, I just think about that too much. My brain I can't let it go. I just can't. And, oops. And so that was a little bit of a problem for me. But, so it's a little bit frustrating, because it's like, there are some questions I would really like answered that were not answered in this first book. But also, there are some things that were really frustrating in this book. So it's like, when I finished it, I was like, absolutely, I want to read that sequel. But then thinking about it, it's like, this felt a little bit long. It really took a long time before they even got to like the excavation site that they were going for. And it was supposed to be like, if you like Indiana Jones. And I'm like, I really do love Indiana Jones. And it's like, where was that? It really didn't happen until more than halfway through the book. So I don't know. I don't know. I really don't like being strung along like a little kitty with a little hot dog on a string. Just kidding. I mean, my cats would eat hot dogs, but you could probably lure me with a hot dog on a string. That's exactly what's happening to me. I'm being lured with a hot dog on a string. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. Really. I will probably just see if my library has it when it comes out or something. Next, though, I would like to tell you about Pearl by Josh Malerman. This originally came out in 2019 under the title On This, the Day of the Pig, which is such a great title. But that was a limited print, and now you can find it under the title Pearl, which I thought was actually going to be about a girl pig. But it's about a big old boy pig who is very creepy. Too smart for his own good. And I really don't know how much I should tell you about this book. Kind of like this Wretched Valley, and also kind of like Sister Made a Monster. It's just a wrap-up video full of mystery books that you should read for yourself. But I really liked this. I didn't know much going. I didn't know much. Oh my god! I didn't know much going in. And I think you also should not know much going in. But this is about a pig who has ill intentions towards humans. And it was gruesome, and so it was very strange. And I really liked it. This was a good one, for sure. I'm finding that I really am liking Josh Malerman's books, as I don't know what was up with my brain, you know, when for years after I read Bird Box, I was like, I don't think I like his books, even though I like Bird Box. It's just that he got so popular that my brain's like, I don't think I like that. So silly. Okay, and then the book that I DNF'd, this is The Suffering by M.J. Mars. And this is like a soft DNF, I think. I think this is like I might come back to this someday. I think I'm not going to get rid of it yet. Like, I'll give it another try at some point. I was just not having it at this point. This is, you know, I just wasn't jiving with the writing. It was too slow in the beginning. It took me like 5 days to read like 25 pages of this. And that's when you know, like that's just not me. That's when I know it's time to put it down. And this is, I don't know, supposedly about like these college students who live in a house, an ancestral house, like in a house that's in one of their families where this seance at one point had taken place in the past where like these ghosts came and killed. It kind of reminds me of 13 Ghosts, except for there's no seance in that. But it's like these ghosts came, these specific ghosts, and it's like they all, I think the thing that reminded me of 13 Ghosts is they all had like these names like the 5 spirits: malice, strength, stealth, deception, and frivolity. Right? I think that's what I'm thinking of. I don't know. Yeah, okay. And then it's like each of the spirits of each of the people fit one of those things, right? But then, I don't know, it was hard for me to progress in this, and I was like, I'm not gonna sit and suffer through this. So I put it down. I don't know, if you've read that, let me know. It has like a fairly high rating on Goodreads, but it doesn't have a ton of ratings. And it is an indie book, so, you know, I'm not saying that that means it's bad. I'm saying that accounts for the, you know, not huge number of ratings. Someday, maybe. And then last, we have The Frugal Wizard's Handbook for Surviving Medieval England by Brandon Sanderson. This I did not really love either. Although the illustrations are really fun in this, especially on the bottoms of like every page are these little illustrations that kind of tell a story of their own. I think the idea behind this is fun. The excerpts of the handbook are really interesting and like funny, but the story itself was just okay. It's about like this guy who, I think they call it a white room book, a white room story, where someone wakes up and they don't know who they are or why they're there. So he wakes up. He doesn't know where he is, who he is, why he's there. Any of his history is past, right? And it kind of comes to him as he's going along, but it's basically almost like a portal fantasy, but it's got like sci-fi and fantasy elements. He's in this medieval setting, but he also has like body modifications and stuff like that. There are parts of it that are interesting, but the plot itself is just really lackluster, especially for a Sanderson book. So this one, it was fine, you know, but it didn't blow me away at all. Which is a shame because it really had, I thought, the potential to be so good, especially with like the quirky handbook and stuff like that. But all right, so those are the books that I read in the first half of the month. Let me know if you've read any of these, what you thought, especially if you've read The Suffering and if you've read Sister Maiden Monster. I'm kind of interested to see where you guys fall on the spectrum of that, whether you really liked it or didn't, or, you know, if you're in the center. Yeah, that's it. Make sure to check out my Linktree. There are referrals to Libro FM for Everand, which used to be Scribed, for my Panga shop, my social media stuff. It's all there. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you guys later. Goodbye.